from the London Center in Phoenix, it's the Pat McMahon Show.
Listen, I know, how about even in the face of talking to the U.S. attorney, that we say, you don't really always have to hire an attorney, particularly if you know what the Arizona laws are. Here is a real fundamental basic crash course in Arizona law on so many different subjects. I'm talking about consumer law, I'm talking about relationship law, I'm talking about what it is you can do to that homeowners association if you're really ticked off. You can do that, and you can check it out yourself and understand enough of the law that at least you'll feel better. Use of seat belts and motorcycle helmets. How about the law of not being stupid when it comes to that kind of thing? Now, we haven't finished with the law yet. Next, the law will be in your hands. That is, if in your hands you have a copy of this book, because within this book, you have an opportunity to find out about all of those Arizona laws with a crash course, and you don't even have to go to law school. Isn't that wonderful? Back in just a moment. Stay with us. Here's a man who has taken upon himself the responsibility of being an attorney, being an author, and the father of twins. I mean, Don, listen, that's an awful lot of active work when you're talking about practice of law, finding enough time to be able to write a book like Arizona Laws 101. How old are the twins?
2 years old.
Oh, that's really a lot of work. Oh, man. I'm assuming that your wife probably occasionally says, honey, do you want to take over for a little while? I'm going out to shop.
Absolutely.
There is, by the way, under the law of having twins and having a happy marriage, I think page 76 says you better say yes when mama says stay home with the kids. Everything, though, everything is taken care of in this book. I was really amazed. Criminal and traffic law, citizens' rights and duties, consumer law, civil lawsuits and claims. Doesn't this kind of put you out of work?
No, not at all. What it does is it makes the clientele more educated. The book was intended to answer frequently asked questions so that people who do need to go to a lawyer before they see the lawyer have a basic understanding of what their claim might be or what their legal rights might be.
But if it's a relatively minor case without a lot of complexities, you probably could get a lot of answers out of the book without ever even hiring an attorney.
You can, and that's a good thing. People who don't need to hire a lawyer ought not to be required to go to a lawyer's office and hire a lawyer simply because they don't know where to get the information.
Have you seen those guys on television? Now, come on, Don. They said, you got to hire my firm for everything in the world that could ever possibly happen to you. What do you think is the most misunderstood law? What comes into your office more often than not that you have to say to a client, no, that's not really true?
Well, when I practiced family law, it was community property. Arizona is only one of 9 states that has community property laws. And people would ask me questions about community property that led me to believe that there was a major misunderstanding as to what it is.
Questions like what? Give me an example.
Well, does this mean that we have to divide everything equally? Does this mean that we have to sell the house and he gets 1/2 of the proceeds and I get 1/2 of the proceeds?
I think the vast majority of people believe all of those things that you just said.
I think you're right.
What's the truth?
The truth is that community property is a concept by which each spouse has an undivided interest in every asset that was acquired during marriage. It doesn't mean, however, that in connection with a divorce, every asset is divided equally.
And you said a key phrase there. You said all of the assets acquired during marriage, so that if he or she had a castle in Ireland before the marriage, then that would not be applicable?
Correct. Even in the absence of a prenuptial agreement, any property acquired by either spouse prior to marriage, assuming that that property has been separately maintained, is that spouse's separate property.
Oh, by the way, honey, no, absolutely nothing wrong with our marriage, and even though I'm Irish, I have no castle. It just was something that occurred to me to ask. Arizona Laws 101. I know you're going to be at Barnes & Noble August the 26th, and that's ages away from now. but maybe you'd like to jot this down because you're not only going to be signing books, but you're going to be talking to people about what's inside?
Yes, and actually the next appearance is August 19th at the Flagstaff Barnes & Noble. After that, we have appearances at the Poison Pen, and we have a Barnes & Noble appearance in Scottsdale, Pima, and Shea.
Okay, listen, let's go over some of these laws. And I'm glad you mentioned it, by the way, because the 26th is the one that I had. And I'm glad that you talked about these other ones, because I know that people automatically go through this thing. And we were talking before we went on the air, and I said, with great respect for you, this is one of the great potty books of all time, because you've got information on every possible legal subject. Injunction against harassment. All right, so that is one of those things you read about, and you think, well, wait a minute, is there any teeth, are there teeth in the law about what you can do if somebody's harassing you? Because you always hear about the fact that it seems to do no good at all. The harasser keeps on harassing.
In that chapter, what I did was I defined harassment. A lot of people don't understand that the definition as broad as it is. The legislative definition of harassment includes many types of behaviors and activities. I then set forth the procedure by which a person can, on his or her own, go into court and get an injunction and have it served by a peace officer on the party who is doing the harassing. And then I give information about how long it will remain in effect for and what happens if it's violated.
You are the most politically astute attorney that I know, because you have practices and homes in both Tucson and Phoenix. You can't go wrong.
Well, I don't favor either.
Unless the U of A happens to be playing ASU, and then somebody is going to nail you to the wall and say, okay, who are you rooting for? But when it comes to Arizona law, how are we doing in this state, this young baby state that we have? Is the quality of the law pretty good here?
It's getting better. I moved to Arizona in 1982.
From where?
From Michigan. I practiced law in the Detroit area for 2 years, and then I moved to Arizona, and I've been here almost 25 years. In that 25-year period, we've seen a lot of changes, both legislative and court law changes, and it's all been for the positive. We have a good base of appellate law from which we can know what the result will be in the case pending, and we have a legislature that I think is maturing and is putting out some good laws.
By the way, in mentioning Detroit, I am obligated to tell you that my producer, Laura Holka, comes from Detroit, and she probably would like to know if there is any law, as a hockey fan, covering loss of teeth. I don't know whether you happen to be a hockey fan or not, but she's a big, huge Red Wings fan, and you may not be able to leave the building without her cornering you and talking about your loyalties. Family law. That's ugly. That just is one of those things. Every time you're talking about family law and child custody and property rights within a marriage, we were just chatting about, what is it that people misunderstand when it comes to custodial responsibility?
Well, with respect to custody, the court is charged with one thing, and that is determining what is in the best interest of the child.
Always the mom. That's what you hear.
No, that's not true. It's what's in the best interest of the child. If you have a mother who's using drugs or has a problem with passing bad checks or is in and out of jail, it's not always the mom. In that case, it might very well be in the child's best interest that the father be awarded custody and that the mother be awarded visitation. Family law is an interesting area in Maricopa County especially because the court has done a fantastic job in putting out forms on its website so that you or I or anybody else who is interested can get a form that is needed to initiate a proceeding. 90% of the people in family court are not represented by lawyers, and so in conjunction with what the court has done, I have tried to cover this area so that a person representing himself or herself can be equipped with the information and knowledge necessary to do a decent job.
Here's one under the chapter of wills and estates, another category that I know nothing about at all, except what I read in the book last night. For example, we are regularly asked, no matter what the document is that we're signing, if we have a living will. What is that?
A living will is a declaration of your desire when it comes to extraordinary means to prolong your life. If you're in an irreversible coma, perhaps you don't want life support used to prolong your life. In your living will, you make that declaration so that your healthcare provider knows.
Okay. So many things under so many different categories, and you can find out more than you ever dreamed under business law, civil lawsuits and claims, family laws, all of these in Arizona Laws 101. And let's run through those appearances real fast, Don Luce, before we have to lose you.
Well, on August 19th, we have an appearance at the Barnes & Noble store in Flagstaff.
That's tomorrow.
At 2 p.m., August 19th.
Oh, August 19th, okay.
In October, we're working on an appearance at the Poisoned Pen, and we have an appearance, I believe, also in October at the Barnes & Noble at Pima and Shea in Scottsdale.
Boy, I'm telling you, you've got yourself scheduled all the way into the autumn. We hope that you'll come back and join us because I constantly have legal questions. I may just refer to the book, however. Don Luce, thank you so much.
Thank you.
By the way, if you said this morning at the beginning of the Pat McMahon Show, he's looking unusually natty today, I appreciate that, but it's not official until my next guest says so. Back in just a second.